Welcome to our viewers on British Eurosport. This is the Ronde van Vlaanderen, the 93rd running of the Tour of Flanders. Just look at the weather. It's absolutely gorgeous today. And what it has meant is that these guys are riding really very fast indeed. Not one single break has got past 2 minutes today. Sometimes they go out for minutes after minutes after minutes. As Jus Postuma having a small altercation with a cameraman, I think, as he went past him. Got a problem. And trying to get the car to come up to him. Two men are out ahead. Wim de Vocht of the Vacansoleil team and Alexander Kaczynski of Liquigas. But they've only got about, as you can see, 16 seconds now. And just before you came on air, if you're watching on British Eurosport, you just missed Cervelo going to the front and giving it big licks, as they say, as they came into the Paterberg. You can see they've only got 72 kilometers to go. They are riding very fast indeed, well up on schedule. Where they would have been just coming into the Old Quermont, but they're already past the Paterberg. Cervelo putting the hammer down at the front. It was Thor Ujoft and Andreas Clear doing them, but Bernard Eisel, that's one of the big favourites, or one of the outside favourites, should I say, needing a rear wheel. They came over the top of the Paterberg, 3 or 4 of the Cervelo men. And it is Britain's Daniel Lloyd who is in the break here. Daniel Lloyd from Cervelo just about to catch Wim de Vocht and Alexander Kaczynski just up ahead. He's got with him Manuel Kinziato, who came across, the ever-present Sylvain Chavanel. It's Lloyd going to the front now, and they've been joined by, what, 1, 2, 3 other riders. One from Francis Dujeu, one from Silence Lotto. And not sure, I think the last guy is a skilled Shimano guy, but we haven't had a really good shot of it so far. It's going to be a battle of attrition today, not because of the weather, but because, well, not because of the weather's bad, but because the weather's good. Sitting next to me, the man who's second 3 times here in the Tour of Flanders. Never managed to put it on your Palmares, Sean, but welcome to the commentary box once again. It's going to be a different type of race today.
Yes, well, it certainly is. It's going to be a very interesting race, and it's a very fast race, as you mentioned. It's been really fast all day. The breakaways, normally you would see them get maybe 10-12 minutes, but today 2 minutes was the maximum for the riders that got away in the earlier part, and there were a lot of action, riders trying to get away. So it tells the speed is on all day, and it's certainly going full bore at the moment, and but still a lot of riders in there. We see coming over the Patersberg a big group of riders still in contact, at least 80 riders maybe in the group, so it will be interesting, and there will be a lot of riders go to the very end. I think to the Quaremont, there will be a lot of Meerbeke, sorry, there will be a lot of riders come there in the end, so it's difficult in these conditions to eliminate riders. It's always the case, but I think with the very high speed today, it's going to pay in the end with a lot of those riders who are hanging in this main bunch.
This is the climb that most people reckon is the hardest climb on the Tour of Flanders. Today it won't be so bad because it's dry, but it's been resurfaced in the last couple of years. It's not as bad as it used to be. Even so, when the weather's bad, they have to get up here. This is the legendary Koppenberg climb, and 600 meters in length. All of it cobbles, as I say, better than it used to be. It's got a maximum gradient of 22%, and you can see they're hitting it now. You may have seen those shots back in the 1970s of Roger de Vlaminck and Eddie Merckx not giving any ground to each other and just powering up here in the wet. And you've probably seen the shots of Jesper Skibby falling here and being run over by a Commissaire's car. This is the classic climb of the Tour of Flanders. The Flandrians are out in massive numbers today, as you can imagine. Oh, just look at the pain on the face of Wim de Vocht and Alexander Kaczynski. And behind them, the riders coming up to them are the breakaway of 5, including Britain's Daniel Lloyd, an ex-mountain biker. He's got no problems with this sort of thing. He did really well in Tirreno Adriatico on that monster of a climb at the end, won by Joaquim Rodriguez. Still trying to work out who the other guys are. Chavanel just sitting in there at the moment.
Kinziato, of course, we said. It looks like Lloyd is Lefevre is there, is it?
Not at all sure. I'm not sure the guy from Silence Lotto is either at the moment. And we'll be trying to find out who they are as soon as possible. We know that Kinziato, Lloyd and Chavanel in there, but they've been joined by a number of other riders as well.
Life host, I think it is, when the
Oh my word, they won't let him get away. Surely it can't be Life Foster, because they won't let him get in that breakaway and get away.
Well, of course, he's a rider who's had good performances here, and he's not really up the big favours because he haven't, produced the results. But certainly, I think he's getting a better form.
It is, yeah, it is Hoster. There he is. Look, wearing a casquette under there, and the quick steps not allowing that to get away. Oh, Tom Bonin absolutely powering up here. He wants to try and shed people. Pozzato is just behind him. Pozzato, this is just a little bit of, I'm going to show you I'm as good as you, Sean, I think.
Well, of course, this is a climb where you have to, take it on the front, because it's so steep, and we see the group out ahead there. You're really struggling. If you tack this behind in 10th or 15th position, the risk of riders falling off is always there. So the best place is just to go for it up front and just really drive it up the hill, and that's what Bowen is doing, just to stay out of danger more so than anything else. And I think when he gets to the top, he will start looking about and see what the position is. And as we can see once again here, all the riders getting over very close together, where if we had wet conditions, they would be sliding all over the road here, and that is going to be the difficult one for him, to just eliminate riders that want to be riders, big groups of riders getting back in here with Bowen and Pozzato.
That's Pozzato, Bowen and Garate, is it?
De Volder, I would say.
Oh, De Volder, sorry, yes, is what I want. Yep, Stein De Volder. Just he's gritting his teeth and trying to hang in there. He says his form's coming good. These two look good. Pozzato looking extremely good. He was leading 3 days to Panna. We mustn't forget, though, of course, that this doesn't stop climbing here, does it, Sean? It keeps going for about 3 kilometres after this.
Yes, well, it drags on for quite a long time after this, and when you see it here on TV, you don't realise on TV, but certainly when you're there, when you have to climb this one and then go on, it does pull on, drag on for a long time.
Britain Steve Cummings just going through the shot there, absolutely grinding out of gear. Nobody's had to get off yet, though. Just have to hang in there and get to the top. There is Jus Postema going through the shot. Expect to see the Euskeltel boys down at the back. That looks like Frederick Willems. Well, Willems has had a very good week, taking the 3 days to Panna. Okay, some say by default, but I wouldn't be that ungenerous. That's Bernard Eisel getting back into the group. So he's had his puncture repaired. His puncture replaced, rear wheel replaced, and away he goes. That's hell. Even worse than the... I'm not sure what's worse, whether the weather is bad or weather's good. We're going to take a short commercial break as the rest of the peloton come here over the top of the Koppenberg.
Presented by Focus. Bikes made in Germany.
This is back on the Koppenberg. Welcome back live. You see the man walking, chucking his bike in the hedge there. Fabian Cancellara. Now, what's he done? He's lost a chain. He's broken a chain by the look of it. Doesn't seem to have a chain on it. Walking up to the top, and he got a pat on the back from a couple of photographers, but who knows? Let's have a look at the bike. He's got no chain on there, Sean. Yep. I think he snapped it. There we go. Getting a little pat on the back. Bad luck. But Cancellara off the pace anyway. Back live then to our guys at the front. It's Sylvain Chavanel from Quickstep, Alexander Kozinski and Manuel Kinziato from Liquigas. Frédéric Guidon, by the look of it, the winner of Paris-Roubaix 11 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that now, and a winner of Paris Tour a decade on. Leif Hoster, you can see from Ceylon Slotto is in there. Dan Lloyd from the Cervelo team is also in there. Wim de Vocht of Vacon Celel, and I'm not quite sure who the Lamprey rider is at the moment. Have you any ideas?
Bandera.
They've only got, what, 30 seconds, if that, over the rest of the peloton, and they don't seem to be too keen. There he is. There is snapped chain. He's just waiting. He's going to go back down the hill again to get another bike. Oh dear, oh dear. Well, that's the problem. One of the big problems, isn't it, here, Sean, is it's so difficult to get cars up here. Yes,
well, of course, we've seen that no team cars allowed up, and they're at the bottom, and Cancellara has to get back down here. And, of course, Koppenberg, Cancellara equals broken chain. It's one of these climbs where, you need to put real power on, and if there's any little weakness in the chain, it's certainly going to break it there.
65 kilometers to go. By the way, you can always Twitter us if you want. Spokesman, S-P-O-K-E-S-M-E-N, Spokesman, if you want to. Let us know if you're out on course. With 65k to go. Also, if you want to write in, if you're watching at home, it's cycling.eurosport@yahoo.com. We've got a little bit of time to do things. It's just managed to calm down a weeny bit. Pozzato looking very, very strong over the top. Bowden gave him a couple of looks sideways. Bowden, the most successful classics rider of the modern era. If you just look at how many races he's won or placed it, just goes to show how well he's been doing over the last few years. But even so, Pozzato looking very good and coming onto form at the right time, Sean.
Yes, certainly really in good shape, and over the past 2 weeks, Pozzato very, very impressive. And Bonin, also getting into very good shape. He was maybe struggling a little bit in the Milan-San Remo. We see him struggling a bit there, and the Tirreno-Adriatico certainly, but he's coming into shape at the most important time. Advantage, I suppose, for the quick steps. So we see Chavanel up here in front. And then we see Bonin with Pozzato and also De Volder very close there, coming over the top of the Koppenberg. And that is the advantage the quick steps have, numbers all the time. We've seen the past number of weeks in the semi-classics there 10 days ago also, very much strong in number-wise, and that's what they're going to play today. And we can see immediately they're playing the card at the moment out front with Chavanel.
His cap's going out, though. It's getting up to a minute or so.
Well, that's the case on the Koppenberg, of course. Everybody was really racing in the bunch to get onto the Koppenberg in a good position. We see Bonin and Pozzato and all the big favourites, most of them to the front. When you get over, then there's going to be a little bit of a lull period, and they start looking who's going to do the driving. Certainly the quick steps are not going to do the driving because they have got Chavanel up front. So that is it's an interesting one here. This one could pull out quite a nice advantage if there's not some of the teams who gets together. Cervelo also have relied up here, so a lot of the stronger teams represented with Silence Lotto also up here with a rider, so it could be an interesting break.
The interesting thing is that behind this group, which now gone out of 1:30, as you can see, it looks like Pozzato to me is just getting an easy ride because Stein de Volder's doing the work on the front to do the pacing for Tom Bonin. Now, de Volder, of course, winner last year. He says he wants to do the same thing again, but this is a nasty little corner. I'll tell you what, if this is wet, this is a horrible corner. But everything good today. And there is Bonin setting pace on the front now. De Volder second back, and Pozzato just sitting in there at the moment, looking far too comfortable for my liking, I've got to say. It looks a little bit further back, as though is that well, the rider from the Saxo Bank team, I think, is Matty Bretchel, but I'm not sure. I haven't seen a good face shot yet. And just beginning to slip away now is Alexander Kuzinski, trying to get back on. Maybe had a bit of a problem. He's able to must have had a bit of a problem, or had gone back to the car to see something. He's got back on to this group up ahead. So it's Leif Hosta, Wim de Vogt, Alexander Kuzinski, Daniel Lloyd, Manuel Kinziata, Frédéric Guidon, Sylvain Chavanel. Guidon just goes on and on and on, but he's been in good shape recently.
Yes, certainly in good shape. Also in the semi-classics, in the Flèche-Brabançonne, I see him. He was very active there in the final laps. Not as difficult as this one, not as much cobble sections, but still a very undulating, small hills. Very active in the final. So it tells us that he has good form, and he can do the rides like we see him in Paris-Roubaix. Doing able to do the distance certainly, and that is the very important thing in the big classics. If he can get to the 260k mark and be competitive in the end. And if he has form, I think he can do a performance. And if you get out in a breakaway, that's what he's got to do, because if he waits with the big guns and when they really go in the end of the last 25 kilometres, he's going to be not able to match that big explosive stuff. But if he can get away in the break as he's doing here, I think it's the tactic he's got to work.
Chavanel, Hosta, Bandiera, Kuzinski, Lloyd, De Vogt, Kinziata, all in here. 1 minute and 13 seconds. They seem to be swapping it around at the moment between Tom Bonin and Stein de Volder. This is a bit of a killer, actually. It's a as Edward van Hooijdonk said recently in Cycle Sport magazine, it's a bit of an ambush, this one, because normally when you're practicing on this, you can get up there's a tarmac one runs up the other side, but they don't allow that. You have to go on the cobbles, and it's a right old rough one, this. 1 minute and 9 seconds. A little bit speculative. They've got some of the big teams have got men up here just to keep people out of the way, and there's some that are a little bit opportunistic, and why not? I'll tell you what, we've got Frédéric Guidon in here. We can see he can do the distance. He's got plenty of experience, but they've got an interesting team, actually. Anthony Geslin in very, very good form at the moment. He's had some good wins recently. Mathieu Ladagnou, Wesley Salzberger can do this sort of thing, although he's a bit more of a sprinter, but he is tough. And Guidon, of course. It's a long time since I've looked down at a Francis de Jure sheet and said, oh, well, there's 4 riders in there who could do something. And here they come, look, attack. Heidelberg, is this Bowden giving it a go? It looks like it to me. The former world champion is pushing really hard now. They've got to try and get rid of Pozzato. The big battle is on between Pozzato and Bonin today. You can see it, it's being whittled down already. Now, is this good for the other riders, other outside favourites? These two just trying to spend themselves?
Well, I think Bonin certainly has to split this big group. That's certainty. If he keeps on riding, as we see him there, riding a bit on the front with the Volta, they cannot do that. And to play the card up front with Chavanel, that could be a dangerous one. So I think Bonin, decides to go in the attack, take Pozzato with him, and Pozzato, should do some of the riding with him. Then if they get away from this big group of riders and get across to the group of Chavanel, and that looks like the tactic of the quick steps at the moment.
Thanks to Ryan from London Writing saying, dear Eurosport, love your coverage, but in this day and age, why can't we show live stats of each rider, e.g. speed, cadence, power, etc. We've said this a million times, Ryan. I'm sorry, we don't provide the pictures. The pictures come from the host broadcaster, and can you just imagine the logistics of having to get cadence, power, speed, data all the way through to provide graphics on somewhere else? That would have to be done by the organisers. They would have to fit out the bikes with all the necessary telemetry in order to do that. It's a very big ask doing that, Ryan. Not half as easy as it sounds, unfortunately. But one of the great things, Sean, is that Belgian television really know how to cover a race. You never get poor pictures from this race.
No, certainly not. The Belgians certainly know how to cover that bike racing, and they have so much practice, and practice makes perfect, of course. And they're doing it right through the season, and there's a huge amount of small races, semi-classics that they cover also. And bike racing is it's majorly difficult, as we see here. Very small roads, cobble sections, the short steep climbs. It's a majorly difficult one to cover well, and I think the Belgium, the host broadcaster today, Belgium TV, they do a magnificent job.
They do. That's Bonin, Pozzato just ahead of this group. They've got about 40 seconds to bridge across to this gap. The peloton's beginning to split a little bit in these small roads here. Well, let's just have a look while we've got time before the group gets back together on who could be the real favourites here. That's Thor Hushovd from the Cervelo team sitting in this little group, trying to come across now. There's a lot of guys who could do something here. Markus Burkhardt just sitting behind him, big, tall, rangy German. On paper, Sean, you'd have to say that the really big teams, the teams with the most chance here would be Quick-Step with De Volder, Bonin, Chavanel, and then probably Columbia, Boysenhagen, Burkhardt, Eisel, Cervelo, Hausler, Hushovd and Andreas Clear, who actually is my outside bet today. He was running on the betting at anywhere between 33 to 1 and over 40 to 1 as an outsider, but I wouldn't discount him. He lives somewhere near the Bosberg, I think, and he absolutely loves this race. But who do you see as the big favourites here? I mean, bearing in mind the nature of the race today.
Well, I think certainly the quick steps are the big favourites, and Bonin, a lot of pressure on. He hasn't had a great beginning of season. He hasn't won as many as last year, and if he can pull this one off today, well, then that will settle everything within the quick step team, and also himself. If he can get the victory today, you go into the rest of the classics, Paris-Roubaix, you go into it so relaxed, and that makes it, very much more easy for the whole team, and certainly for himself. And he's trying to do that. He can see there today that a very big group, as we talked about, and he's really intent on splitting that earlier on. And I suppose at the moment it's a catch situation. This group out front, it's a very dangerous one, as we said, and it did go out very quickly to almost or around the minute and a half, and that is something they have to be careful of, because if they go to 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, well then who is going to do the chasing? And Bonin realises that, and I think within the quick steps, to go in the attack and split it once again. But as we can see here, a lot of riders clawing their way back, and a lot of the Silence Lothar riders here. We see Gilbert also coming up there to join up with Bonin and Pozzato. And the interesting one, I think, is Host up front. He's the one, who's capable of doing something and getting into form very slowly, struggling a lot this year, and getting into this race, I think, without being talked as a favourite. And that is also a good thing at times. There's not a lot of pressure on him, and certainly he could be one of the dark horses today.
Yeah, he's coming slowly better and better and better. Second 3 times, Lev Hoster, 2004, 6 and 7. And he was beginning to think, oh, I'm never going to win this one. The group getting bigger here.
And so important, of course, for Leif Hoster. He's a rider who just do 10 days in the season, really. He does, Tour of Flanders, Paris-Roubaix, and that's it. His season is over. Same as Van Petegem was doing a number of years ago. So it is very important for him that he gets it right. And he's a rider, if he can get it just perfectly right on the right timing, well then he can, do a performance, a real good performance in the Tour of Flanders, Paris-Roubaix. He's certainly, capable of winning it.
If you're out on the course, I know well, you won't be seeing this, but I've already put it on Twitter. I'm hoping to get some info from people who are out on the course. I'm sure they'll be sending things in. If you want to send your questions in while we've still got a little bit of time, it's cycling.eurosport@yahoo.com. Thanks to Ryan asking why we couldn't put speed and cadence and telemetry and so on, and just the logistics of it would mean it was phenomenally expensive to do. And as I say, we take the pictures from somebody else, and we don't actually film these ourselves. Eurosport buys in the footage, buys the rights to show, as you can imagine. But Brian Palmer, our old friend Brian Palmer from the Washing Machine Post, says, in that case, can we have power, cadence and our readouts for you and Sean in the commentary box? You can just measure us by how many bits of paper and how many cups of coffee we drink, I'm afraid. We've been over the Steenbigdries, and they go through the Tijneberg we've over. Now it's the Eichenberg. Eichenberg, 1,000 meters long of cobbles, 10% of a maximum gradient. Then there's Verand, the Leeberg, the Berendries, Velkenberg, Ten Bosch, Eichenmolen, Muur and Bosberg still to go. And more digging coming on the front from Cervelo by the look of it. Did that look like Hausler just very briefly? Well, how good has Heinrich Hausler been this early part of the season? But he's trying to get across now. They won't let him go, Sean, not in the slightest bit. But he's not made a great number of friends in the last week or so.
Well,
certainly his tactics have been.
Yeah. His tactics sometimes are, a little bit questionable, and certainly, in the semi-classics, I was there for the Travel Belgique, and there he was the strongest man in the race, certainly. But his tactic in the end wasn't certainly, what you would expect from a rider of, of his standards. But he's got the form, and that is the main thing, I think. If you've got the form, well then, sometimes as a big rider, and myself, I remember, and in the Tour of Flanders, I can remember on occasions I was really good, and that's the time you make some mistakes as well. When you're too strong, that's the time you can make tactical errors.
There he is. He can manage. He's not the biggest of riders, but he's quite a tiny rider. He can manage to keep going on these sort of terrain in this sort of weather. Just behind him, I think it was Matti Brechtl. Watch out for Brechtl from Saxo Bank. Bonin in third spot. Pozzato sitting right behind him. Pozzato has been his shadow all the time, and then it looks like clear from the Cervelo test team. So far we haven't seen George Hincapie up the front. He's just happy to follow at the moment, but he's still in this front group. Hincapie thinking he's got a chance this time around. He might well do, if he can get to the end. Well, you can pick half a dozen riders who could sprint it out in the end here.
Yes, well, certainly Meerbeke is looking comfortable at the moment, and sitting there in the 8th, 10th position on the climbs, and that's the way to do it. And Meerbeke, I think maybe not one of the big favourites, but certainly a danger man also. And leave the Cervelos, leave the quick steps battle it out here, and that's what's happened at the moment. We can see Cervelo going the attack, and also quick step interested in pushing it on, and just follow for the moment. That's what you've got to do. And if you've got the legs in the final, well, then you can do a lot of damage. Just leave the bigger favourites and the bigger teams, burn their set out as such, and then see in the final as we get in the last 25 kilometres.
They've got 3 joint leaders, so to speak, Hausler, Hushoft and Clear in the Cervelo team. And Hausler is doing the pace setting on the front at the moment, 32 seconds. Remember, he's got a teammate up the road, and Lloyd. Lloyd there to do a job. He's there to get in that break, police it, and make sure he's there if one of those 3 team leaders get across to him. He's certainly the strongest domestique they've had for quite a while. Well, Hayden Ralston's done well, Hunt's done well, but Lloyd, a bit of a revelation, really. I mean, obviously not a revelation to you, Sean. He was in your team last year.
Yes, well, certainly last year, he put some great performance for us, and there was a lot of people, really interested in him, and he's got into the top-ranked team. Cervelo, of course, a very good team, and had a fabulous beginning of season. And Daniel Lloyd is up there. We see in Qatar, he was very active, one of the strongest riders, and he's just improving all the time, and that's what he's got to do. And he's certainly upped his game this year, and his riding performance, I think he's up to another bit, and certainly that's the way he's going over the last couple of years. And if you have a good program of races, maybe he had a little bit of difficulty with some of the race program he had over the past number of years, and that is not great. If you haven't got a perfect race program, then it's difficult to improve every year that little 5-10%.
Certainly set him in good stead for these classics, though, because he's a very good climber. An extremely good climber, as we witnessed his 1 stages in the Tour of King High Lake, mountain stages. And he would look at himself as a climber. He's developed into a really good all-rounder, and he's been racing a lot of the time. Rode with the Flanders team, the Continental team, rode with Sean's team here in Belgium. He's started in good stead for this.
Bikes made in Germany.
Live shots here back on the Tour of Flanders. The gap is a minute back to the peloton, and some other riders trying to come across to our leading group of riders. It's Heinrich Hausler here, pushing on for Cervelo. Stein de Volder looking over his shoulder to see where Tom Bonen is. He's down a little bit further, maybe 5 or 6 bike lengths back, with Bretschel from Saxo Bank in here, and it's just looking a bit nervous to me, Sean. Nobody's quite sure what to do yet. Everybody's watching each other. Nobody wants to let anybody get away, but nobody's prepared to do the attacking work.
No, well, certainly a bit of not too sure exactly the tactic here. I think there is some of the teams that Quick Step are a little bit concerned with who's up there, and maybe Chavanel is not the rider they can lead this group go, and certainly that seems to be the case. Also Cervelo, they seem to be with Hustler. We see him pulling it on there a lot. They're a little bit worried maybe that Lloyd, and for the final, not good enough, but it's a great position to be in, to have a man up front all the time. But as we know, Lloyd, he had a crash last week then, was out maybe for a little bit, and that can take effect in the end. So the big teams are calculating at the moment and not allowing this one to pull out, but once again it's going out over a minute at the moment, and it's coming to the time now who's going to take up the chase. When you have a man up there, you cannot really put 2 riders or 3 riders in the front, although we see the quick steps, a lot of them around the front here, but at the moment really not riding to close it down. So a little bit of certainly they're undecided what to do at the moment.
Foster on the front here. The climb still to come: Varent, Leberg, Berendries, Valkenburg, Ten Bosch, Eichenmoller, then the Muur, which after 240 kilometers is a right killer, and then the Bosberg. This is quite a long one here, the Leberg. There's a whole series of climbs now which do not have cobbles on, and this is the first one. It's just under a kilometer in length, the maximum gradient of 12%, average gradient of about 7. Then the Valkenburg, Ten Bosch, Eichenmoller, all tarmacked, and then you get to the Muur, 475 meters of the Muur on cobbles, and a real wicked, nasty lift up to the left around the monument at the top. Look back on the front now. Three of the Quick Step boys, De Volder, Van Impe, I think it is, and oh, no, it might not be. Yes, it is. Looks like Van Impe and Tom Bonen sitting in the middle. Pozzato still ever the shadow of Bonen on his right-hand shoulder. There is Heinrich Hausler for Cervelo with a clear on his right-hand side. Just looking to see who else is in the front there. Looks like Martin Weinand from the Quick Step lot. So they've got four in the front already. Is that Greg Van Avermaet just lurking in the background for Lotto Hip? I wouldn't be surprised. Looks like David Boucher from the Landbau credit squad. Often gets in the breaks, often likes to get in the breaks. Jeremy Hunt sitting right at the back of this little group at the moment. And De Volder, the winner last year, and won it in some style, I have to say. Looked fabulous when he was winning it. He did say at the time, well, my radio wasn't working particularly well, and Bonen didn't quite know what to do, I don't think. I think there was a bit of a PR exercise afterwards, but I don't think he was worried that he'd gone off and won it. I think he just knew what he was going to do. But he won with such power. Emanuele Viti, a winner of a stage in the Vuelta a España, beat Nicolas Roche to the line. Whoop, that's Wim de Vocht, so he's had a slow change there, as he was in that leading group. And they've just imposed some authority on the front here now, Sean. They're just calming it down to what they want to do.
Yes, well, certainly at the moment it's a point of the race where there's the terrain doesn't present where you can go in the attack because the riders will just sit on in your slipstream there and just get an easy carry along. So it's certainly a difficult moment, and the gap is growing 140 at the moment. So but I think the Quick Steps are certainly not happy, as the Cervelos, as we see. I think there will be more action when the terrain presents the right moment, the right place to attack.
Yep. It's not quite the right place to attack here. 52 kilometers to go. We're getting some tweets, as they say, in on Twitter. The Bike Pure organization, which, for those of you who don't know, it's an organization of teams and riders and supporters who want to improve the integrity in professional sport. That means completely drug-free sport. Daniel Lloyd in there is a member of the of Bike Pure. I think he's got a wristband on for Bike Pure. Actually, they're all on the Muur, along with about 30,000 Belgians, apparently. So they say, and wouldn't be surprised. There's an awful lot of spectators out here today. There is a Leif Hoste on that canyon bike of his. They are pretty stiff, those canyons. We'll be noticing that today as they bounce over the cobbles. The Liquigas boys are on synapses today. They're a little bit more forgiving, perhaps, than the Super 6. Some of them, they're a little bit heavier, actually. So for giving it a big pounding over the cobbles. Two Liquigas riders in this break, though. So Hoste just having a little bit of a break on the back here. You have to come through and do some. And Kinziato is not happy that they're not coming through and doing some work. Lloyd does his bit. You'll have to watch that if he wants to keep something in reserve. We'll take another break. Keep riding in. Live shots here from the Tour of Flanders. With 50 kilometers to go, there's a breakaway up the road. Two Liquigas riders, Alexander Kozitsky and Manuel Kinziato. Frederic Guidon from the Francis de Jure squad. Leif Hoste, one of the big favourites, still being allowed to get away here. 3 times he's got a second place in the Tour of Flanders. The big Belgian from Silons-Lotto. Cervelo's Daniel Lloyd. Bandiera from the Lampre squad. They're also still in. Wim de Vocht was here and has slipped off the back thanks to a puncture, unfortunately. They're still pushing on. Still trying to keep this momentum going, to keep themselves ahead. And Sylvain Chavanel is the other man in here. Chavanel, well, he's just doing a little bit of policing and being a bit opportunistic. They're playing that card, getting him up the road. They've got 3 guys controlling the pace on the front of the peloton with 1 minute and 40 seconds now the gap at 49 kilometers to go. Anthony Schroeder, how you doing, Ant? Diesel, as we call him. Remember Anthony? Do you remember Anthony Schroeder? from London to Paris. There's a nod of head from from Sean here next to me, writing in saying, can you tell us about the Flanders Sportive and where to stay and logistics and stuff? We probably missed the boat on that one as it was yesterday. And for those of you who don't know, 19,500 people came out to ride this course in advance of the race itself. And there's Marcel Zeberg on the front now, driving the pace along. They've got Hincapie in this group. They might want to do something with Eisel and Burkhardt as well. And Boysenhagen we've not seen at all, but he could well figure if he can get up over the hills. Yeah, 19,500 did the Sportif yesterday. Well, accommodation, logistics and so on. It would take an hour to tell you, Anthony, how to do everything, but we'll chat in advance next time and see if we can get it done. I did the 140 last year and did the 140 the year before. Didn't do it this year, but you ask, how's the training going for London, Paris? Am I riding the fix? Yes, I did 3 hours hilly yesterday. Very hilly yesterday, and my legs hurt. But thanks for that. I'll get there. Some of these guys will be wishing that they can get there fairly soon. Splitting up now, Sean. These groups, just increase of pressure, just a tightening of the screw, little bit by little bit. No massive attacks yet.
No, certainly no attacks, and we see it's the Columbia rider Zeberg who is riding in the front, and of course, you know, they have missed the move here. They haven't got anybody up there, so they're, you know, starting to try and, you know, keep this gap down to a minimum, certainly, because it was going out there to the 140. It's come down a bit, so it's. You know, it's a time where this group could, you know, if it could pull out another minute and advantage it, it would be a dangerous one, and it could go all the way to the finish. But certainly, I think there's more attacking to come from the big hitters back in the bunch. And surprising there on that section of cobbles, which was the Haaghoek sector, which was 2 kilometers long. I was expecting maybe attack from Bonen once again there, or from the Cervelo riders, because that's where you can really put you know, the riders who are just hanging on here, and we can see a lot on the rear. We see the Escatel rider, Caldo Fernandez, just hanging on the rear of that group, and that's where you've got to go in the attack. But I think certainly we haven't seen the end of Bonen yet, and you know, on those sort of times which are on here, I think he will go on the attack once again.
I think he will, because we've got a whole series of non-cobbled climbs. The Leiberg, Berendries, Valkenburg, Ten Bosch and Eichenmollen are all ready there to be taken at some speed. Well, I tell you what, if Caldo Fernandez can hang on to the back, it can't be going that hard. And now attack coming, lone attack coming from a rider from the Landbau Credit Colnago squad. It's the only team now that the Colnago really have stuck with as bike suppliers. I met their managing director about 6 months ago. We were having a long chat, and he said, well, why should we actually give bikes to big teams? And it's incredibly expensive. Our product has a good market, and we're just taking a little bit of a break from that. But they've stuck with Landbau Red at Colnago. 130 is the gap. Thank you for all your updates if you're coming through. Thank you for your emails as well. Plenty of British representation, people are asking, in the women's Tour of Flanders. It's going on at the same time. Starts ahead of the men's, run the same course, not quite as long, but at the moment they're coming over the Muur, I can tell you, and it's Emma Johansson and Kirsten Armstrong up towards the front there. That's all the information we have at the moment on the women's Ronde van Vlaanderen, but if we get any more, we'll let you know. I'm sure we'll get some coming in at some point, but I can tell you that Emma Johansson and Kirsten Armstrong are putting down the pressure at the front. Britain's Roger Hammond, Bernard Eisel and Sheerlinks. That's the other Sheerlinks, not Staff Sheerlinks, who's riding for Silence Lotto, but the second of the Sheerlinks family. I think are they cousins or brothers? I can't remember. I think they are related. From Landbau Credit. Eisel managed to getting up to the front. That's good for him. He had a puncture, dropped him off the back. Shows the pace, as I say, Sean, is not absolutely massive, because people have been able to drop off the back, get a spare wheel and come back on again.
Yes, well, certainly, and I think we can see groups coming back to the group of Bonen here, and the other big favourites, Pozzato, quite a big group making its way back to join up here. As we can see, you know, it was about 35 riders after the difficult section there. the Patersburg and then the Moor. I think it's split, but we can see it's growing, to be quite a big group once again, and that tells us the pace have certainly dropped. But out front, the gap 115 at the moment, 113 at the moment. So it's certainly not pulling away to that danger point. So it's all to play for back here. But who is going to take up the chasing? That is the question at the moment. And as we can see, Eisel here trying to keep it going, and they're the team who I suppose with a favourite with Big George in there. He's a possible one to do something and maybe pull off the picture today. They seems the orders is they've got to ride.
My outside bet, as I've said, has been on Andres Clear. A bit of money on Andres Clear today from me. He was running out at 33 to 1 2 days ago, 44 I think it was to 1 yesterday when betting closed as an outright winner, but he could well do something today. Let's not discount people like Greg Van Avermaet on the day today. If it really goes hard, Van Avermaet might not be able to hang in there, but he's got a teammate up the road in Leif Hoster, 8th last year, Van Avermaet. We haven't mentioned some of the other smaller teams. Bouygues Telecom, Steve Chenel, very, very active during the E3 Prix very recently, as were a number of other riders. You can get some of the smaller riders coming through fairly well if they all stick together towards the end, Sean. I mean, Skill Shimano's Cyril Lemoine has done very well. He was a top five finisher in Criterium International. There's all sorts of riders who can come through.
Yes, well, certainly there is a lot of riders in here at the moment, but it gets more difficult as you get to the end, because when you get to the Muur of Gersbergen, it's going to be like a finish of a race to get to the bottom of that, and you have to be really in good shape, and if you're not a specialist and in top shape for 245, 250 kilometers, it is majorly difficult to get a good position going into the bottom of the Muur of Gersbergen, and then if you're too far off, there's going to be splits certainly there, and it's impossible to get back. If you lose 10-15 seconds on the Muur, it's so difficult to make it back up to the leaders. The outside riders, I think the riders maybe the outside favourites, they're the ones who should be up in this break, and I think that's what you have to calculate or work your tactic that you're going to break as we have out front.
Our men up the front are Alexander Kozinski and Manuel Quinziato from Liquigas, Frédéric Guédon of the Francis de Jeu squad, Bandiera of Lampre, Leif Hosta of Silence Lotto, Daniel Lloyd of Cervelo Test Team, and Sylvain Chavanel of Quickstep. They've got 1 minute and 8 seconds. They've been yo-yoing from about 30 to about 1:30, so they're well within sights of being caught. The fact that you can sort of chop a minute out of their lead and then let them go out again is just sort of playing with them really towards the end there, but still trying to push things on at the moment is Alexander Kozinski, just keeping the pace a little bit higher. Kozinski's been off the back talking to his car and then back up to the front, and it's Leif Hoster coming up behind him. He's the only man there wearing a casquette, even though he's got his jersey right the way down. Over 43 kilometers an hour has been the average speed so far, as Chavanel comes up behind Kozinski, closes the gap and is going to go round him. Just keeps the pace going with Manuel Quinziato on his wheel. Richard Gorman, so closely associated with the CSC team that won the Tour de France last year, says he's on the Muur. He's just had to put on sunscreen. It's just not right. It's Flanders in April. What's going on? It's incredible weather here today, and that really will make a race of its own. How tactically aware do you have to be on this particular race, Sean? I know Edwin van Hooijdonk in an interview recently was saying you have to be very, very good tactically here, not just the strongest.
Yes, of course, certainly the tactic or the experience that comes into a great advantage, and depending on the weather, if it's wet weather, well then the tactics are much more important. But here today, you have to know the terrain, where to go to the front, and as we can see here, we come into hills again with Pozzato here, just storing it up once again, and all of those riders would know this route very well. Pozzato, Bono would know it very well, and I was just reading there in some of the papers, the Francis de Jeu riders, they did it on Friday. They went out and did the last, I think it was 130 or 140 kilometers, just to get to know that final. If you're not, if you haven't clear in your mind or clear in your head. You've got to do that to get to know, and that is so important because the positioning is very, very important in this one when you get into the last 50-60 kilometres.
43 kilometres still to go. Then they are on Berendries. This is another tarmac climb, and for once Pipo Pozzato looks like he's actually beginning to work here, although he's looking over his shoulder. Flicks the elbow for Tom Bonen to come through and do some work. Stein de Volder is working really hard to try and get on the wheel, and there's a Silence Lotto rider down there. That's a pretty concerted dig by Pozzato. Can't shake Bonen this time, though, as they go over the top of Berendries. And the Silence Lotto rider and some of the others are going to get back onto him as well. Another David Dunphy, says, yeah, I quite fancied Andreas Clear for today. Mind you, I managed to get 50-1 odds. Thanks for that. That makes me feel a whole lot better. 45 seconds back to the main group. I can't believe this weather today. It really is tremendous. Sean, you were second in this race 3 times, 84, 86 and 87. How much would you have given to win one of these?
Well, of course, you'd love to win. You'd love to have in your palmarès, and I certainly would trade a Tour of Lombardy or a Paris-Roubaix, for that matter, for a victory in the Tour of Flanders. And you know, when you live in Belgium, of course, you're you're an adopted son, and if you can win a Tour of Flanders, it's just so important. And again, you know, I was. Some of the years I was really in top shape, but against bigger teams maybe and specialist teams for the classics, and that was my problem. I didn't have a team who was built around me for the classics, as well as some of the Belgian teams were, like in the years of the Peter Post time, and that you know, that was a little bit of a handicap. And we can see here again today, as we talked about earlier, the quick steps, you know, numbers, they are very strong, and that is the advantage. And Pozzato, he's realised that, you know, they're not really going to chase this one down. They're going to maybe play the card of Chavanel, and Pozzato goes in the attack, and he immediately has Bonen and de Volder with him, and it's going to be, you know, always a difficult situation, because if they succeed in pulling away here, they get up to the front, the breakaway group. Well, then they have got Chavanel, 3 quick steps. You know, it's a huge advantage when you have a lot of riders who can go into the final of a race like this.
Well, the leading group seems to be splitting now, with Hosta, Chavanel and Kinziato ahead of Guidon, Lloyd, Bandiera and Alexander Krzyzinski. They're just have to tap their own pace out. Kinziato, Chavanel and Hosta looking behind them, seeing where the other guys are. Well, our gallery is, our director is saying attack. I don't think it's really an attack. I think they're just putting the pressure a little bit further on the pedals. And the other guys just slipping gently off the back. They will try and get back on. Now we've got Pozzato, de Volder and Bonen. The group are gradually inching up, being led by Juan Antonio Flecha of Rabobank. I think I saw Martin Mascant in there as well, trying to get back up a little bit earlier on, the Garmin Slipstream rider who came 4th in the Paris-Roubaix last year. He really is a super prospect, super laid back. Hello to Alex T in Holmes Chapel in Cheshire. Sorry, you managed to break your leg, actually. And the 13th of Friday the 13th this year. On a Friday the 13th. There's only been one, isn't there? Was it last month? 40 mile an hour crash. Sorry to hear you're stuck inside. Hope you're enjoying the coverage here of the Ronde van Vlaanderen. "40 kilometers then still to go. The next climb will be the Valkenburg with just 2k to go. Valkenburg, 540 meters in length. There's no cobbles on it. Again, about 12.8% maximum gradient, a little bit steeper overall than the last climb up the Berendries, 8.1%. Now, somebody making a comment that the coverage here seems to be an awful lot better than, say, on the Tour of California. Well, I guess you'd expect that. They really know how to cover stuff in Belgium. The motorcycle outriders, the cameramen, the directors, they know the sport. I think you'd be right. Certainly even in bad weather, they would probably have more experienced coverage here. Not to say it's not nice seeing the Tour of California, but this is something different. This is the best one-day race in the world. And a lot of people will be shouting at the telly going, no, it's Paris-Roubaix or it's Milan-San Remo. But in my humble opinion, this is the one. Love it. Absolutely love this race. De Volder's working hard. He had to work hard to get across to these two. Now, Pozzato is looking very, very cool and calm indeed. And so far, he hasn't done what he has done in the past, Sean, and now and again, and blown it. He's still got time to do that. Hammond trying to get the guy from Barlow to come through and do some work. Who is the Barlow rider? Difficult to tell. For those of you watching in the UK, Steve Cummings riding for Barlow today. The gap seems to be increasing a little bit, Sean, between these three and the guys who were in the break with them.
Yes, it certainly is, and you know, it was the sudden up of pace by Pozzato. It came down a bit there, but it's certainly the time for, as you said, De Volder to ride on here, although Pozzato is not really contributing anything at the moment. But for the quick steps, it's a great situation. If they can pull away from the rest of that group which they were in and get across to this the front group, well, then they have three riders up in front, and as we can see, there's quite a few of the riders suffering out of that original breakaway. So it's really, you know, we have the three leaders out front who are the strong men, and if they can make it across the Bone and Pozzato, De Volder group, well, then it will be, you know, a really good situation for the quick steps, and they know that, and that's why De Volder is really giving it everything here to try and just hold off from the rest of the bunch and to pull away from the main bunch.
Come back together again. Oh, this is this is De Volder and Bonin going past the remnants of that little group. Pozzato, De Volder and Bonin have now got Lloyd, Kuzinski and Bandiera and Gridon for company. Now, how many of those guys in that group would have been asked to just hang back a little bit and wait, or have they just been tailed off?
I think it's a tail-off situation there, as you said a bit earlier. They were not really attacks, it was just that the men up front, Chavanel, you know, just that bit stronger, and you know, they were not able to follow when the pace was up a bit on the climbs, and you know, they're going to have problems staying in here with De Volder and Bone and Pozzato. It's going to be major difficult for them, as we see the Rabobank, another team which has Noyens, who has also missed this move, so he's got to make a move here and you know, try and get across, because if they allow De Volder and Bone to pull out 15-20 seconds, it's going to be really difficult to pull them back later on.
We haven't mentioned Rabobank at all, actually. Juan Antonio Fletcher, Sebastian Langeveld, of course, who's a very good rider indeed, and Nick Noyens, who's on the attack here.
Gilbert.
Philippe Gilbert still can't get used to him in those colours. You just have to get used to his style. Down on the drops, he just rocks his shoulders very slightly.
Yes, another rider who's finding difficulty to get form this year, you know, not as good in the earlier part of the season, and you know, maybe calculated as well to be in better form for the big classics, but certainly struggling a bit, and over the last 2 weeks, you know, not good enough, I think, to see him do major things in this one today.
.37 kilometers to go. Lloyd has been passed by the Noyens group with Philippe Gilbert. Well, this will be a massive thing for Philippe Gilbert if he can get towards it. It's taken him a long time to get used to this sort of length of race. Now, this is Pozzato, Bonin, De Volder. And behind them, I think they picked up Bandiera, have they? Yes, it's Marco Bandiera in this group, and he's hanging on in there now. But Lloyd, we've already seen, has been passed. And now they're coming up to the Hoster group. They are. They're coming up to the Life Hoster group, when Sylvain Chavanel looking over his shoulder, because he's got two teammates in here now, Stein, De Volder and Tom Bonin. De Volder, a winner last year. Bonin has won this race twice in the past, back in 2005 and 2006. In 2005, he beat Andreas Clear, and the swan song year, I think, of Peter van Petegem. And Bonin beat Life Hoster and George Hincapie in 2006. So Hoster knows he's... it must be a heart-sinking feeling now, thinking, oh my word, there's three of my rival team have come up here now, and they're all on really good form. 36 kilometers to go. Well, next it'll be the 10 Boss. 10 Boss at just under 500 meters. Maximum of just under 9%, and then the Eikenmolen which will be the last of the tarmacked climbs. Well, I wonder if Lloyd has got anything left in the legs to help out Heinrich Hausler or Andres Clear or Thor Hushovd when he gets back. He's certainly a tryer, and when the rest of the peloton meet up with him, then I'm sure he'll stick in there while he can.
Yeah, I think it's a big error by Husler, Hushovd, George, Hincapie, those riders. You know, you cannot allow the likes of Bonin, Pozzato, De Volder to get out of your sight, and that's, you know, what we talked about earlier, tactics and the experience. You know, you have to know on the climbs, you just have to stay close to those guys, and if they go in the attack, you certainly have to try and, you know, match them and follow them on the climb. But if you're 10 places behind and a rider or two riders in front, leave the wheel go, and they take 20-30 meters, it's just impossible to close those guys down. So, you know, it's all about experience. If you've got the legs at all, if you've got the fitness, well, then you really have to stay close, because when they go, you can't allow them to take 5-10 seconds, because then it's too late. And that is a big mistake by Cervelo, allowing you know, those guys to escape. I think Hushovd and Hustler, Hustler should be, you know, able to match those guys, but maybe a little bit of inexperience, because it's something new for him. We haven't seen him here in the past few years really aggressive, really up there in the action, the final. I think he's got the form, but just the experience may be lacking a bit.
Well, once again, Leifhost is looking over his shoulder, seeing exactly what's going to be happening here. He's going to be hoping the Bandiera will do some work, because we've got Stein de Volder, and who's right behind him, and Tom Bonin sitting up ahead of him. Pozzato, who's only got eyes for Bonin at the moment, and hopefully Pozzato will be doing some work, and Hoster will be hoping that, because up ahead is this man here, Sylvain Chavanel. He's got Manuel Kinziato with him. And Sylvain Chavanel, now they can play the sort of 1-2-3 card, basically, can't they, against any of their favourites? It's 3 against 2, really. There's Kinziato. There is Kruszinski and Guédon. Managed to get back to this group here. Thanks very much, they say to each other. Number 1 there is Stein de Volder. They're all pretty relaxed at the moment. There's a bit of glass cranking going on here. Nobody's really putting effort down. Who's going to crack first, Sean? That's the thing, because you've got a quick-step man up the road already.
Well, that is the situation at the moment. For the quick steps, it's, you know, it's difficult, you know, to know what to do here, because with Chavanel up there, it's a great situation to be in. But you know, you must remember, behind the group is not too far off the chasing group peloton, 36 seconds, as we can see. So, you know, you have to be careful, not allow them to get back in here, because you're, you know, back to the same situation again. A group of maybe 30-40 riders together, and that is always difficult to split that once again. So I'd be not surprised if we see, you know, the quick step starting to operate again here from Bonin and De Volder. And we see Host there. He's not going to do a lot here. He's going to, you know, try and get carried along, get as close to the finish as possible, without, you know, making the least amount of work. That is going to be his tactic here, certainly.
A lot of questions coming in saying, do anybody make any adjustments for their bikes on these sort of on this sort of terrain? They may alter the tyre pressure slightly depending on the weather. They don't make as many changes as they used to for things like Tour of Flanders or Roubaix. Flanders never, I didn't think you ever made too many changes for Tour of Flanders, did you, Sean?
No, not anything major with the Tour of Flanders. Of course, Paris-Roubaix, the tyres, especially the Paris-Roubaix tyre, which is a little bit higher and a little bit wider, of course. But on today, on the good weather situation, well, then you would just ride with normal tyres, and your position, it would be rare that you would change your position before any of those classics, because the last number of weeks, you know, you'd be riding the semi-classics, and you know, they'd be over a lot of the terrain. The distance not quite as long, but certainly a lot of the same terrain, and your position would be, you know, should be right. But if you're going bad, and a lot of riders, when the form is not coming, they start playing about position, and that is something I think is not advisable at all, because the position, I don't think that's if you have a position for many years, well, then by changing is not going to make your form any better over a couple of week period.
Frédéric Guédon, who's pushing on a little bit here. He certainly feels he's in good form. Is that Azan Bazayev who's coming behind him? I can't remember whether he's... I should do, shouldn't I? I can't remember he's the Kazakh national champion, but yeah, it looks like Bazayev. Looks like his style, apparently. So we're told the top 3 selling jerseys on the Muur today are Quick-Step, Saxo and Cervelo, in that order. 30,000 out at the Muur to watch this coming through. They're on the 10 Boss very shortly. I think they're going through the 10 boss actually with 32 kilometers to go. The lead riders. Here is Heinrich Hausler. Azam Bazayev is just behind him. Bazayev has had some very good results recently. His compatriot Dmitry Muriev was 8th a couple of years ago in this race, but Bazayev in good form. He's got a couple of top 5s in some big races. There's going to be a big bunch at the finish, Sean. Quick guesstimate, how many do you think are going to make it to the end if they bring this little breakaway back?
Well, I was calculating, or I was forecasting earlier on that there would be maybe 60, 70 riders on the Muir, but it certainly, you know, broke up much more than I expected when Bona went in the attack, and then Pozzato a bit later. It split the group, you know, greatly, and there was only what 33 riders, 5 riders in the front, and I was surprised at that. But you know, it will depend now what they do up front in the group of the breakaway. You know, will they continue on here? But it certainly looks like you know, there's a bigger group coming back once again.
27 seconds is the gap, just 31 kilometers to go until the end. They're on the 10 boss. Here they are, and Heinrich Hausler is now pushing away, 6.9% average gradient. I'm surprised that Bazayev is doing so well. He's really started off his life as a sprinter, but he's a bit he wasn't at the very top end of sprinting, and so clearly he's doing a little bit better. I tell you, Heinrich Hausler looks so comfortable here as Kevin Van Impe tries to come up to the back of him from Quick Step. One of the, is it Vacances Soleil riders coming across as well. But Hausler setting the pace. 26 seconds now. Just 20 seconds is the latest we've got on a race radio on the Chavanel trio. And it's really broken up now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 riders in this group. And you just wind your way up the road. You can see there is Chavanel along with Manuel Quinziato. So we know behind following are Pippo Pozzato, Stein de Volder, Tom Bonen, and a number of other riders who've got across here now. We're all coming back together. And who's driving the pace along on the front? It's Philippe Gilbert with Andreas Clear in his wheel. Sebastian Langeveld, I think, from Rabobank. And then Bonen, then Pozzato. Then looking back, it's de Volder. Then Hausler's got across. Bazayev is in this group. And now they're all beginning to come back together again. Well, it's not been an attack that's made itself stick. Sergei Ivanov is the Katusha rider in Heinrich Hausler's wheel. He wants to keep this going, Hausler. He's got fish to fry for somebody else, I think.
Yes, it's surprising to see him so active, but he's got the form, and I think the big surprise is that he missed the group that went away, and there was a danger one with de Volder, Pozzato, de Volder. That was a very dangerous move. If that, you know, had worked well together up front, it could have been game over for the rest of the peloton. But here he is once again now riding, and that tells us, you know, he's still in very good shape, feeling good. But who is he riding for here at the moment? Because, you know, he's a lot of riders on the bunch here who are going to chase. And when you go riding on the front of the bunch on the flat sections, even going in the attack here, it's very difficult, you know, to get away from the riders. They will, as they say in cycling terms, they will cling on for a long time. It's really on the climbs, on the cobble sections where you have to go in the attack, because everybody is really on the rivet. Everybody is suffering big time, and that is the place to do it. And Hustler here, as we can see him just, you know, towing the group along as such.
He is. Well, they're not quite sure whether they want to be towed along yet, I think. 17 seconds is the gap. Just before we go to a commercial break, we hear that his teammate Hayden Ralston broke a kneecap today in a crash earlier on. Come back with live coverage. 28 kilometers to go. There's only 14 seconds between our leading riders and the peloton, basically, as another dig comes out of the front from Topsport Vlaanderen. Well, it's amazing. Preben van Hek Preben van Hek, now he's ridden for Topsport Vlaanderen for a while. I think he rode for Mr. Bookmaker and Koolstrop for a while as well. But really, there's nothing to split them at the moment, Sean. All the favourites are pretty much together, and anybody who's up the road is not up the road very far at all.
No, certainly not. The gap, as we can see, hovering around that 13-15 second mark. But the pace is it certainly has to be high, because up front we see Chavanel and Quinziato. They are working well together, and I think they're giving it quite a big effort out front. Certainly for Chavanel, it's a position that new to him. He hasn't found himself in that in the last number of years, and it's a great position to be in, because with the quick steps down the bunch, quite a number of them, they are going to control the situation. But with Quinziato, he has to try and get rid of him, because I think if those two can go to the final with Quinziato in a 2-up sprint, I think Quinziato will be the faster one. But
yeah,
after 260 kilometers on an uphill sprint, it's always the strongest man who comes out. But certainly for Chavanel, it's an opportunity here maybe to win, to pull off a big classic. But
yeah, finally to pull off a big win.
The question is, how much will they have on the Muir? Because with 20-30 seconds on the Muir, I don't know if that's enough, because there's going to be a lot of action when they arrive on the Muir. There's going to be some riders who are really going to just give it everything on the Muir and try and pull away from the main bunch. And when you get a gap of 10 or 15 seconds on the Muir, it's a time trial to the finish, and 30 seconds maybe would not be enough for two leaders out front.
Great move by Preben van Hek, though. He's seen that there's not that much of a gap, that if he can work hard, he can get across to these two. That'll make it a little bit easier for him. Quinziato just sitting there, and Chavanel doing much of the work at the moment. I'm with you then, Sean. I think if it came down to a flat-out sprint at the end, my money would be on Quinziato, definitely. But Chavanel is for sure going to give it a real big dig on the Bosberg at the end, because he'll probably go up those cobbles a little bit faster than Quinziato.
And I think the quick steps, they're not maybe going to be totally happy with the situation out front, allowing Chavanel to go into the final and contest the win against a rider like Quinziato. So I would be expecting to see some action, certainly from the quick step from the likes of De Volder, Bowen, and certainly on the Muir of Gelsbergen.
Last of the tarmac climbs in the Eikenmollen, just about 600 meters in length, with just over 12% as a maximum gradient, 5% in general. They've only got 25 to go until the finish line. It's all getting extremely exciting. Big shout out to David Miller, who's watching us, I know, with a broken collarbone, along with Harry Gibbings. Another big dig by Stein de Volder. And De Volder's trying to get across, exactly as you said, Sean. Not happy with just the one man up the front. They're sending De Volder out. Surely Pozzato or somebody like this has got to chase this.
Yes, well, certainly this is the place that you have to be careful with the quick steps. They're not going to be happy with the situation out front, so you have to hang around De Volder, Bowen, certainly, and when they go into the attack, immediately in the wheel. And that is the surprise here from the likes of Pozzato, but maybe he is just controlling Bowen a little bit too much. But the Cervelo riders and Hustler, as we see there, I think the tactic for me would be just wait and just play the game off against the big teams like the quick steps. And certainly you could see that they're not going to be happy with Quinziato out front with Chavanel, so they're going to try and get another man up there, fire another man up there, and exactly we see that De Volder is going in the attack here, and you have to be immediately about De Volder and to just go into wheel immediately when he makes the move.
Here's De Volder. He's coming up to the rear wheel of Preben van Hek, who actually, I was thinking back on it, I think he rode for Relaxed Body Soul, didn't he? Which is the feeder team for the Quick Step team. Preben van Hek. He's only 26 years of age, but he's been around for a long time, as this man is. And De Volder's just going to go straight past him. Come on, work with me. Look at the difference in musculature.
Come on, hang on to me.
Yeah, exactly. Hang on if you can, boy. Preben van Hek moved from the one camp to the other and rode for Predictor Lotto. Didn't have a great year. He's gone to Topsport Vlaanderen, which is in effect a sort of national Flandrian team. 19 seconds only is the gap. This is going to be an absolute nail-biter, because there's just going to, believe me, when we get to the Muir, there is going to be so much action that it's going to be really difficult to keep a handle on whatever's going on, because you're going to get half a dozen riders going for this. Immediately they get to the Muur. Remember, we've got the Eikenmolen has just finished. Now there's a bit of a drag until about 16.5 kilometers to the end, so about 10k now. Now what do you do in this 10k? How do you sort of plan your last 25k of the ride?
Well, depending on what your situation is in within the race and the team you've got, and of course, you know, with the quick steps at the moment, it's a perfect situation with De Volder out in front here, and we can see on the front of the bunch it looks like Cervelo riders like to the fore once again, towing the bunch along, and De Volder, you can't allow him to take, you know, 5-10 seconds. We see last year when he went away on his own with about 25-30 kilometers, he had 12-15 seconds for kilometer after kilometer, but he just held off all the attacks and just hung on out there. And he's a rider, you know, when you allow him a couple of 100 meters advantage, it's so difficult to pull him back, and that's going to be the situation here. It looks like, you know, he's going to time trial up to Quinziato and Chavanel.
We'll take another break, hopefully the last one before the end, and we'll bring you up to date with the women's result just after the break. This is the live situation with just over 20 kilometers to go, with Van Hecke, Preben Van Hecke, just hanging on gamely to the wheel of Stein de Volder. Just ahead of him is his teammate Sylvain Chavanel with Manuel Quinziato. This is becoming a little bit difficult for other big favourites, because the quick steps are taking control of this. Just before we went to a break, I said we'd bring you up to date with the winner of the women's Tour of Flanders, who was won by Ina Teutenberg of Germany. Britain's Nicole Cook, fourth. We'll give you the full rundown on that if we get it in time. Helen Nutter. Is that just your name or your nature? Expressing disappointment with the poor old Hayden Ralston has been injured. Never mind, that's going to hurt. Broken kneecap takes a long time to recover, Sean.
Yes, certainly it's a one which takes a number of weeks to recover, and I would reckon the first number of weeks, you know, it would be total inactivity, and that is a difficult one. You know, the other breaks we talk about, the collarbone, of course, you know, you can be back on the bike week, 10 days, you can start doing some work on the home trainer, so you know, you do not lose as much, but certainly it can be a difficult one.
Here we are then up at the front. Well, not quite up at the front, should I say. That's Sergei Ivanov. Looks like he's just about to be taken back. Sergei Ivanov from Katusha, the Russian road champion. With just behind him and closing in, going past him now, is Johnny Hugeland of the Vacan Soleil team. That you're looking at there, you've just seen it on your screen, is Simon Spilak of the Lampre squad, and he has been looking good as well recently. He did pretty well in Flesch Brabanson. He was very, very active, and remember, he's had a top 10 place here in Flanders in the last couple of years. Spilak, another outsider for me. 50 seconds down from these guys to the peloton now. De Volder, Chavanel, Quinziato and Preben Van Hecke. That's his best position ever coming into a big race like this, and the guys from Topsport Vlaanderen will be just chewing their fingernails down to the quick at the moment with just 20 kilometers to go. 36 seconds back to the next group, and Preben Van Hecke more than happy to come and do his share. Quinziato is the one who's a little bit more reluctant to do things at the moment, and De Volder not having any of that. And I think Quinziato knows he can't sandbag De Volder. He might be able to get away with it with Van Hecke, but he can't get away with it with someone like Stein de Volder, a winner of this race. No Alessandro Ballan, as you will have already guessed, in this year's Tour of Flanders, has contracted a virus just at the wrong time, and not here to defend, well, not here to have a go at emulating his win of 2007. No Luca Paolini either, who was third back in 2007. This is very, very ominous for everybody who wants to take the fight to quick step, isn't it? 48 seconds now on race radio down to the peloton. This is looking like a good little break here, Sean, to me.
Yes, it certainly is, and we can see they're riding, really strong here in this four-man leading group. Everybody is prepared, to pull his weight as such, and that is very important because if you have a rider who wants, to hang on the rear and get towed along, it really upsets, the organisation of the pace being set because the other riders want to spare a little bit then, and other riders want to sit on. But certainly it seems to be working good for the moment. And the interesting one is we see Tosato, Spilak, Ivanov and the Vacan Soleil rather, the four, they were working quite well, so it'll be interesting if they can pull away from the bunch, and will they be strong enough, have they got enough power to maybe eat into the advantage here of our four leaders.
Johnny Hugeland is the rider from Vacan Soleil. That's a great name, isn't it? Johnny Hugeland. Sergei Ivanov, Simon Spilak and Matteo Tozzato. Well, this is becoming a very interesting fight indeed. Tozzato just looking over his shoulder. He's not prepared to do anything at all, and quite rightly. He's going to sit on the back. He's got two teammates up ahead, and they've been so active all day. Even when the little breaks were splitting apart, Sean, you'd get one man after another from Quick-Step to bring them back together. Van Impe did some work. Martin Veinens did some work. Kevin de Weert, we saw doing a little bit of work, just pulling them back together and not letting it stretch out too far. What about Bonan and Pozzato though? They're playing the card. Pozzato has just been looking at Bonan all day, testing him out. And Bonan is he quite happy to play the company man and sit there and neutralise him?
Yes, I think he's a little bit, he's afraid of maybe Pozzato if it comes to a sprint, and we see that 10 days ago in the E3 prize in the semi-classic in Belgium, he came to the sprint with Pozzato, and I think, Bonan, he started to lead out the sprint with 250 metres ago, but he was beaten by Pozzato on that one, and I think he's a little bit afraid of that. Maybe he's still in the back of his mind, and he's playing the other cards, and as we said earlier, the quick steps, they have so many riders who can, be in the final of this one, and that's what they're doing once again today. They're playing all the cards which they have got, and I think Pozzato is, he's missing out here. He should be more active, and when like De Volder go, you have to try and go with him. Certainly De Volder and Bone, you cannot allow them to escape, and I think from Pozzato a little bit of a tactical error here, and we see again the chasing group of four here. They've got Tozzato, sorry, in that one. So Quick Steps, majorly strong manpower. Like they have the power and they have the men to be in the final of this one.
They're in Gerardsbergen now with 17 kilometres to go. They'll be coming up to the Muur very shortly. This is the chasing foursome of Simon Spilak, Johnny Hugeland, Sergei Ivanov, and forget who's there. Oh, it's Mario Tozzato. And now look at this. It's the Silence Lotto riders on the front driving things along, as are Rabobank. They've split that group behind. Now they're on the Muur. This is our leading foursome. Preben van Hek of Top Sport Vlaanderen, who must be almost kicking himself, thinking, my word, what am I doing here? Manuel Kinziato of Liquigas, who looks very strong. And then the two quick-step riders, Stein de Volder, last year's winner, and Sylvain Chavanel, who has just blossomed into such a great rider. I've always liked him as a rider, but he's become something else. Here they come. This isn't the steepest part, though. It's when they get to the top towards the monument. And what a leg breaker is that, Sean? We've both ridden it. It's awful.
Yes, it certainly is. Well, they're going through the village of the town of Gerardsbergen here, and you're not on the climb itself. You go a bit further, and then you hang a right, and that's when it really kicks up. And it's also when the cobble section gets a bit more broken up, and it certainly gets much steeper. And as we can see, a lot of action here in the bunch from the Rabobank. Fletcher, really stirring it up at the moment. Yeah,
Fletcher deciding he's going to have to go for this. Behind it's Ivanov from the Katusha squad, wearing what is the Russian Road Race Champions jersey. They're not on the big climb yet. This is where they just start the climb. This is an absolutely disastrously horrible climb, just nearly 20% at the top by the monument. 475 meters in length, the climb itself. But it's the bit at the top that's the real killer. It's an absolute leg breaker after 240 odd kilometers of racing. And even in these conditions, weather doesn't, well, it does make a difference, but I mean, they just go harder in this sort of weather. So there's advantages and disadvantages. And now the attack comes on the front. It looks like De Volder who's pushing hard on the front. It is De Volder. Kinziato gritting his teeth, trying to get up there behind him. Kinziato knows he's got a victory within his grasp here if he can get towards the end. He knows that he's a good sprinter, Kinziato. He's a good time trialist as well, so he might be able to get away at the end. Preben van Hecke has just got to grip in there and see what he can do. De Volder makes the move. Who's gone with him? Kinziato. These two, with Chavanel just looking as though he's beginning to struggle, but just hanging on in there as much as he possibly can. Now Kinziato is starting to suffer on the left-hand side of your shot. Preben van Hecke is riding well, actually. The young man, he's just sitting in the saddle still. Now just gets out. First over the top goes Stijn de Volder, last year's winner. They remember they've got to go up over around the monument again. Just this last little bit to go. Look at the crowds. There's 30,000 Belgians going mad for Stijn de Volder here. Oh, that's just wonderful. This is why this is the greatest single-day race in the world. Manuel Kinziato digging in. It looks like Chavanel's got the measure of him here. There's the monument over the top. Now behind, is that Van Avermaet? It's Van Avermaet, Bonen, Pozzato still sitting in the saddle. Still climbing back. Has he left it too late? I don't think so. There's still time as they get over the top. Or is it Gilbert? Yep, Philippe Gilbert. What a wonderful ride by Philippe Gilbert.
The team, of course, certainly have done the business. So we see the Silence Loader team pulling along, leading into the climb here. So Gilbert's got to do something, and certainly the moment, because we see the advantage for the breakaway. He's got to really get away here and break this group of 30-40 riders and try get in a chasing group with Bonen.
Stijn de Volder, last year's winner, former Belgian champion. He won that race last year in some style. Just rode away and held a gap, and now he's trying to do the same again. He's launched his attack on the Muur. Remember, there's one more climb to come, the Bosberg. Oh dear, there's no chance.
Well, I don't think he's going to work, because certainly the situation here at the moment with De Volder out front, I cannot see Chavanel working here, because the strongest man we see, De Volder, he really put on the pressure there on the Muur, and he pulled out quite a big advantage, and he is a difficult one. When he gets 5-10 seconds of advantage, he's a great time trialist, and we see that last year, and once again he's going to put that to the best use here.
But he's only got 15 seconds at the moment over these chasing riders, and probably what, about 30 seconds, 35 seconds back to the group. It's not much if they all start working together. And look at this, Sylvain Chavanel sitting in the pound seat, because that man there in green, Manuel Kinziato, has really got to do all his own work. Pozzato just sitting on the wheel of Philippe Gilbert, and Tom Bonen again, another man who doesn't have to do any work at all. Preben van Hecke gets to the front. Oh, good man! That's what we like to see, real attacking riding. He's not going to hang around for those two. They can look at each other all they like. Preben van Hecke thinks, hey, this is going to be the biggest day of my life. I'm not letting you two spoil it. Off I go. He knows he's got to stay out. He knows he's got to put some effort in, because he will know there's other riders coming behind. And now they're going to start arguing. The Flanders and the Walloon are going to be head-to-head now. Oh, what Antonio Fletcher coming across. You'd have thought for all the world it would have been too late for Fletcher to do anything. But no, Fletcher gets across to the messing about guys in front. Matthew Heyman is just sitting behind in this group as well. Gregory Rast, the Swiss rider from Astana, on the front. And now the group is a little bit bigger. Who is the slipstream rider? Didn't see. My apologies for that. Stijn de Volder still up the road, 14 kilometers to go. Has he got enough in the tank to do this? He said he was getting coming into form, and Kinziato, it's no good Kinziato leaning over his shoulder and having a go at Sylvain Chavanel. That's just I mean, that's just silly. You've got to know he's got to do it. He's got to do it. He should get his head down and just work with Preben van Hecke. Sean, a little bit of Italian temperament coming out from Manuel Kinziato, but he's got nothing to complain about. If the boot was on the other foot, he wouldn't be doing any work either.
No, certainly not. We have a guy out there, a teammate up there, very possible going to win this race, and certainly Chavanel is not going to do anything on the front here. It would be certainly the wrong tactic to do, and Quinziato has just got to work with Ruben van Hecke here and try and hold on to the advantage, stay out in front of the bunch, and see can they do something on this final climb. But it's definitely going to be difficult against De Volder, because he's in the perfect situation. He has nobody to look at, nobody to think about for a sprint, so he, alone out in front, he can just give it 100%, calculate your effort and just go for fun.
Here he's going then. This is the Bosberg coming up. Last climb of the day for this man. Only part of it is on cobbles, only about 400 meters of it here, and this is where Edvig van Hooydonk twice jumped his rivals. There's no rivals for Stijn de Volder here at the moment. De Volder has got a gap of nearly 30 seconds on the group. Now he has 30 seconds on the group. Quinziato throwing away a chance to have a go after him. I think really you've just got to get your head down and have a go. De Volder knows that when he gets over the top of this, he's only got a few kilometers to get towards the end. This finishes with 12 kilometers to go. This is the 16th and last climb, as you can see, the Bosberg. Is this the place to, if there were groups of 2 or 3 of you together, is this the place to attack, or would you have done it on the Muur?
Well, I think the Muur is certainly a more steeper one, and if you've got the legs and you're still feeling good, you have to attack on the Muur, because this is getting quite late. And we see Gilbert, of course, going in the attack after the work from the rest of the team coming into the Muur climb. But it's always difficult, because there are going to be riders who will stay in your wheel, and you cannot time trial along at this stage in the race with a number of riders in the wheel. If you do, well, then you're going to be certainly beaten in the sprint. But if you're in a situation where we see Quinziato here, he's riding for a place in the podium with Ruben van Hecke. He's got to ride here and continue on, because Chavanel is certainly going to do nothing, and a place on the podium is certainly a great achievement. Even in the top 4 are to play for here, so I think Quinziato has all to ride for. He just has to keep on riding here and try and hold off that group of Gilbert and Bonin.
Wilfred Peters banging the side of the team car, saying go on, go, 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 go. He's got nearly 40 seconds. He looks absolutely ripped. He really gets into shape at the right time for these classics, doesn't he, Sean? And what bodes well for Paris-Roubaix in a week's time. Juan Antonio Fletcher has tried by himself. He's now going to be eaten up by the peloton on the Bosberg here, but they've left it too late. It's 1 minute and 2 seconds. Unless something spectacular happens, I still want to know who the guy from Scarman Slipstream is just to the front there. It looks a little bit like Martijn Mascant, but it could be Will Frischkorn as well. They've got similar builds. The big losers here at the moment, well, certainly in the last 30 kilometres, Sean, have been Cervelo. They did a lot of work earlier on, and now they've just gone bang out the back door.
Yes, certainly it is. I did not see many Cervelos there, and it's certainly a surprise, because it's the way Hustler push off. I will be expecting them to be there, but once again, the 200 kilometre mark, when you get over that, if you're not really in top shape, or if you're not a specialist in classics, which for a specialist in classics you can do it, but with Hustler, of course, Milan San Remo, a little bit of a different race, not as difficult as this one, not as demanding, and here it's the final 30-40 kilometres really tell if you're starting to run out of energy. You pay the price big time.
I see MBL's mountain bikers Andy Waterman said, I rode up the Bosberg in the big ring once, not even in the smallest sprocket. I think I got up in the 53.19, maybe even the 21. I bet you didn't do 240 miles of racing, 240 kilometers of racing before you did it though, Andy. That's the difference, I guess. Ruben van Hecke now sitting on the back. Good for him. He's galvanized this trio again. But Sylvain Chavanel now does his priority change? Does he ride for a place on the podium, or what is he doing? Is he just blocking it?
No, I think he's just riding for a place on the podium. He knows that De Volder, is the 50-second mark at the moment, and it's growing out. And I think orders from the team carries to ride a bit with Ruben van Hecke and Quinziato, and you're going to be there for a place possibly on the podium. So certainly there's no danger for the victory here for the Quick Step. So they're going to play once again and try and get 2 men up in the 2 men on the podium.
Yeah, that's what they're going to try and do. I feel a little sorry for Preben van Hekke, having done quite a lot of work. The likelihood is he will be outgunned in the final by the other two riders and just finish just off the podium. But even so, anything in the top 10 is a good ride, Sean, in this.
Yes, well, certainly for a rider like Ruben van Hekke, it's a great performance here to see him up here in the final. A Belgium team, of course, you know, it's much more important again here. So he's, you know, certainly doing the performance of his life, and I think, you know, the team will be, you know, majorly happy with the performance today of the team and of Van Hekke.
51 seconds now between this man here, Stein de Volder, who continues to just ride away now. He's done exactly what he did last year, a little bit later than he did last year, and launched an attack and ridden away from people. He's got to win back-to-backs here by the look of it, unless something dreadful happens or he blows up. In your time of riding, Sean, just so you can think back, what was the greatest single Tour of Flanders race you participated in, and what was the best victory you ever saw?
Well, the best one I participated in, I suppose, difficult to say, but you know, the years when the weather conditions are bad, well then you know, they're the most difficult ones. And if you're in good shape and if you're a specialist in classics, well then you get through the day better, but and you can support that sort of weather much better. And you know, that's something I think. You start off with a better morale the morning time, and when you see it's going to be a bad day, the weather forecast is not good, you say, well, a lot of the riders are not going to have morale. You know, and a lot of them do not support maybe the bad conditions, the cold weather, the wet conditions, and that's the time I think you enjoy it most. And if you're in top shape and you can support the bad weather, it's a huge advantage.
Well, he's had 2 good years in terms of weather, really. This man here, Stein de Volder, rode with the Discovery Channel for a while, looked like he was doing really well. There was a time, Sean, when we thought he might even be a contender for shorter tours, perhaps, or even in the big tours he might be up there in the top 10. He rode a fantastic Vuelta one year, I remember, did wear the gold jersey for a time. A very good time trialist, but he seems to have found his natural niche, which is back here in Belgium in the Classics, back with a Belgian team. And he's got to do it again, by the look of it. I can't see anybody challenging him now. With 8 kilometers to go, he's got nearly a minute's gap. And these three are the people riding for a place on the podium. Kinziato has just had to settle for that. And Preben van Hekke has had a fabulous, fabulous ride. 26 years of age, Van Hekke from Dendermonde. And has ridden for Predictor Lotto. He rode for Relax, Bodysalt, and now with the much smaller and local or district team, really, Topsport Vlaanderen. Well, I wonder what's going to happen. That's going to be the most interesting race here now, these three, with 7 kilometers to go. Well, de Volder has really taken this by the scruff of the neck now. Is this going to be a repeat of last year, Sean? And we're going to be watching this man being given the Tour of Flanders so that Tom Bonen can have a good crack at Paris-Roubaix?
Well, I think, you know, certainly de Volder, tactic, he just, you know, he can work it very well, and he sees the opportunities. And of course it comes back to Tom Bonen and Pozzato. You know, they're big rivalry there, and a lot of talk about them. They were the big favourites. If you look at the papers today, it was Bonen and Pozzato the big favourites, and the rest were further down the table. And I think, you know, he knows that, and the Quick Steps know it. And the other thing is, I think Pozzato in the sprint, if Bonen goes to the finish with him, a little bit unsure if he can beat him in a straight out sprint, being beaten already, you know, 10 days ago by Pozzato. So they're going to play, you know, the next card in line. And of course we see Chavanel being thrown up the road quite early, and then de Volder, you know, coming across. And it's, you know, if you've got the riders, you've got the manpower to do that in the big classics, well then you have to use those riders, and certainly the Quick Steps have done that really well today. And de Volder, I think his tactic, he's read the race very well, and he can do that. And you know, you also have to be in good condition, and certainly he's coming the last 2 weeks. I think he's, you know, just coming into the perfect form, and today he's, you know, certainly at his best.
Another wonderful Tour of Flanders again, and the defending champion wearing number 1 on his back with 5 kilometers to go. It's Stein de Volder, who launched himself off the front of the group he was in on the Muur and just rode hard, and that's all he had to do. He just rode hard, and the others just rocked away. Kinziato tried to stay with him. Chavanel just about hung on. Kinziato dropped back a little bit, and then he was on his way. He's powered up the Bosberg. He's got less than 5 kilometers to go now to the finish, and he is going to win a second Tour of Flanders in a row. Now, not a whole bunch of people have done that. Bonen, his teammate, did it in 2005 and 2006, but you have to go back quite a way to find anybody who's done back-to-backs. I'm just thinking, actually, you might even have to go back as far as Eric Lehmann back in the early 70s to have done 2 back-to-back. Yeah, I think so, actually. I can't remember any others. Bonen in 2005 and 6, and then I'm pretty certain you'd have to go right the way back to Eric Lehmann in 72 and 3. I think he also won in 1970, by the way, but a triple winner, Eric Lehmann, riding for Flandria. So this is some achievement by Stein de Volder, and the only other man in the peloton to have done it is his teammate Tom Bonen, who's kept a weather eye on Pozzato. The two of them were sort of out-psyched each other, really. Will Pozzato be kicking himself tonight?
Well, I think certainly, possibly a little bit, depending on what way he was feeling. If if he was feeling good, but the surprise was that we did not see him on the Muur of Gersbergen going in the attack. It was Gilbert who went in the attack, but Pozzato was very much close by there. He was in the wheel of Bonen and looked to be comfortable sitting in the saddle for quite a long time on the climb. So certainly maybe he will be saying to himself, well, I should have watched the Volder also, because if you're with the team which have a lot of big riders and very possible winners, you have to really keep an eye on them, and the Volder's the one I think Pozzato should have been keep him under control a bit more today.
Just making sure he's got the right time, I think, for Stein de Volder. I'm not sure, has he got an earpiece in? I'm not sure he has. He likes taking it out in these last things. He's been asking Wilfred Peters about what the director sportive in the car, what the gap is. He says it's 1 minute. He put his finger out 1 minute. And he knows he's got it now. Manuel Kinziato, well, he's riding to do his best finish here in the Tour of Flanders at the moment. Flicks the elbow to try and get Chavanel to come through. Not going to do it. That'll be... tries again. Oh. And Preben van Hekke is sitting there as well now. Is anybody coming up behind them? Oh, they're coming up behind. Look at this. The 3 men have worked so hard, they are losing out big style here. As Stein de Volder marches onwards towards a second victory in a row. Thank you today for your company. Thanks for all your Twitter entries and your emails. Keep them coming. We'll be in Paris-Roubaix. We'll be at Paris-Roubaix next weekend for live coverage. And then we move on to the Tarmac Classics as well. But it's not over here. This is going to be a massive blow to Van Hekke and also to Kinziato. They've got to really put the hammer down now. You can see the huge gap that Stein de Volder has got over the rest of them. They're just about coming over the top of this crest now, are they? There they are with 3 kilometers to go. That's the banner they've got in front of them. De Volder is home and clear at the moment. And Chavanel may be riding for a place on the podium. I don't think he's going to get it now, Sean.
No, it looks like they're going to be swallowed up by this chasing group of about 30-35 riders. And Chavanel, we can see he's suffering a lot. He's rolling a very big gear. He's lost the rhythm. Where De Volder here, like, he's turning the gear very well, and that tells us he's still feeling quite well.
Well, the latest time check we've got is 1 minute and 9 seconds. I don't think it's that big, actually, looking back over the shoulder. But fear not, Stein de Volder fans. He's not going to get caught now with 2 kilometers to go. In fact, the tickers on the top, the graphics provided by Belgian television on the top left are slightly behind the real distances today. It's been a very fast race. We came on air, we thought we'd come on air at the Old Quermont, but we came on after that at the Paterberg. So they were running about half an hour or 20 minutes or so faster than we expected, even at the fastest possible scenario. Still plugging on though. There's still a chance while they can. Here we go then. 1 kilometer to go for Stein de Volder. Well, he's had a fabulous ride. Look, here he goes there. 2, he says, 2. He's done it, back to back. The man from Quick Step launched his attack perfectly, and amazing. He did a tremendous amount of work early on, Sean, for Tom Bonan, and to bring things back together.
Yes, he certainly did. He was quite active, and when he went in the chasing group with Bone and Pozzato, you know, he was the one maybe who was doing most of the riding, certainly more than the other two. And last year as well, he was doing a lot of riding in very early in the race, 60 kilometres, 80 kilometres to go. He was doing a lot of work on the front, but in the end, just still rode away. And same situation once again today. Like he's such a powerful rider. Like he's, you know, when he gets on top shape, he is really a great classic rider.
This is the one for a Belgian to win with 300 meters to go. You can see the finish up ahead in the Nova here. Just look at the crowds today. It's been a beautiful weather day, and Stijn de Volder has proved the master of the Flemish cobbles once again. 2008, 2009, Stijn de Volder is the winner of the Ronde van Vlaanderen, and behind the chase will be on to see who gets the podium places, because the three men, Kinziato, Chavanel and Van Hekke, are going to be caught. 2 wins in a row for Stijn de Volder. The former Belgian national champion does it. It's Heinrich Hausler who's trying to come out from everybody, and they're all teeing each other up behind. Look, they don't want to go for it. Hausler is going to try for this one now. And in the background, it looks like Maskant is right up towards the front as well. Bazayev is in there. Wouldn't put Bazayev past being on a podium place, you know, the Kazakh national champion, but the crowd quite rightly cheering on Stijn de Volder. And Heinrich Hausler looks under his shoulder to see who's lining themselves up to get 3rd and 4th, but Hausler digs in deep. Oh, big crash on the far right-hand side of your screen, left-hand side of the road. Hausler's going to take 2nd. Who's going to take 3rd? It looks like Gilbert from Ustazit or Van Evermaat. Over the line, just Gilbert, we think. A big smile on the face of Tom Bonan. Leif Hoster has to make do with what he can today. Kinziato looking very disappointed. Let's have a look at this crash on the right-hand side of your screen. Who goes across? It's the Astana rider, hits one of the barriers. Oh, one of the riders from Cervelo has gone down as well. Very hard indeed. Could well have been Thor Hushovd, actually. Hushovd lining himself up on the left-hand side. He goes across to the left, touches shoulders with the rider from Astana, and goes down as well. Oh, massive save by the rider from Francis de Joux. I don't know which one it is. You can't tell from this angle. Hopefully we'll get some idea of who that is. But here is the winner, Stijn de Volder. Looks as cool as he's just come back from a training ride. Amazing. Just looking to see who the rider from Francis de Joux is, just bringing his bike in. I'm not at all sure. Is it Giza? I think it is. Well, a great win for de Volder. He's shown that he is the man for the Tour of Flanders. And he's dedicating his victory, apparently, to Frederik Nolf from Topsport Vlaanderen, the young man who died just 21 years of age during the Tour of Qatar. Oh, he does have an earpiece in still. So a victory dedicated to Nolf. He's a very happy man, Stijn de Volder, and I should think there'll be a lot of de Volder fans out there who are happy as well. Well, they played the numbers game.
Ja,
and it worked perfectly for them. Well, your Flemish is better than mine, Sean. Well, in fact, my Flemish is pretty much non-existent, and yours is very good indeed. So if we get an interview in Flemish, I'm afraid you'll have to do the translations on that one. That's a nice touch to dedicate that to Nolf. Good race, Sean?
Yes, certainly a magnificent race, and yes, a very fast race. We can see the average like with up on the fastest
Ik heb
time.
hier heel lang naartoe geleefd, veel tegenslag had en samen hard gewerkt met de mensen die dicht bij mij stonden. mijn vriendin en
Couple of years, difficult
al de
times.
mensen die met mij gewerkt hebben,
Great times.
blijven in mij geloven. En ik heb blijven zeggen dat ik de Ronde van Vlaanderen zou winnen. En ik heb het ook gedaan.
Je zet die actie in op dezelfde plek als vorig jaar zo ongeveer. Maar voor de rest was het helemaal anders. Met dat vervolg op de muur.
Ja, het was een heel rare koers. Er waren een paar sterke mannen voorop en daarachter was er geen samenwerking. En
a lot of strong riders in the front in the breakaway, and there was no really organisation behind. A lot of time it was slowing down, and something Pozzato, he said, was very, very active and very strong.
He certainly was very strong, Pico Pozzato, but I think he missed out today. But once again, Sean, you were saying it's about numbers, isn't it? Let's have a look at who is the rider. I think it's Rast, actually, from Astana. Well, he's walking at least, and that's good. Look at the bent bars on his bike there. That's a right mess. There's Matteo Pozzato, Simon Spiller coming across. There is our winner, the great Stein de Volder. Terrific rider. Love him. Fantastic. As you were just about to say, Dirk Nachtigall, the soigneur there, congratulating him. You usually see him doing that with Tom Bonen, but on this occasion, for a Flandrian, this is the race to win. Pozzato, nobody with him. Even Ivanov wasn't working with him, Sean, even when Ivanov came towards the front.
No, well, I think it depends on the riders up there. We see some riders getting away in groups there, and they look to be pretty comfortable. But I think when you get into that last 30-40 kilometers, a lot of riders suffering. And if you're not a big specialist in this in those sort of races, well then you're going to start suffering in the end. And I think that is the case with a lot of riders that we see maybe getting away in moves. We see Daniel Lyde, he looked quite comfortable there, but suddenly he started to lose contact.
And there he is, just coming over the line. 5 minutes and 35 seconds down on the winner, Stein de Volder, but no shame in that. I think he just hit the wall, but it was very active. Here we are then. Stein de Volder, Heinrich Hausler, Philippe Gilbert, Martin Mascant it was, Pipo Pozzato, Bretschel, Burkhardt, Loikemans, Elmiger and Bert de Vel. And actually of those 10, I think there was only one man that we didn't discuss at the top of the show that would have been there, and that's Bert de Vel. Loikemans, well, the rider from Vacan Solel, but the win goes for twice in a row now to Stein de Volder of Belgium. Well, the rest of the group coming in, a big team who've missed out apart from Cervelo. Didn't even have much in the way to throw up the road apart from Burkhardt. Team Colombia, they'll be disappointed, I would imagine, Sean, as will Cervelo.
Yes, I think certainly, but it depends on what way you're feeling. If you have the riders who finish quite, strong and feel good, that's the time you will start regretting it. But if the riders were, really, start to suffer 40 kilometers, 50 kilometers to finish, then there's nothing you can do in the race like this. And Big George, he looked to be comfortable enough, but the question is, was he suffering in the last 30-40 kilometers?
Well, I hope you've enjoyed the coverage of the Tour of Flanders. It was running very quick indeed, but another victory for Stein de Volder, back-to-back for them. Join us next weekend live for Paris-Roubaix, and then we're on to the Tarmac Classics in Wallonia. Bye for now.